Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Well, thank you, and may I begin by thanking Deputy Ambassador Hillman for sharing Canada's position and just stating that Ontario stands shoulder to shoulder with you and our federal government. I'm Jim Wilson, the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade in the Government of Ontario, Canada. On behalf of Premier Ford and the Province of Ontario, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to reiterate what I know we all know, that Canada and the United States have the greatest trade relationship in the world, one that has led to economic growth, productivity, and a fully integrated auto sector that is more profitable, innovative, and robust. Ontario is a proud trading partner to the U.S. In fact, Ontario is the #1 or #2 export destination for 28 U.S. states. Ontario is the economic engine of Canada and the hub of Canada's automotive industry. In fact, the vast majority of Canada's auto manufacturing occurs in Ontario, which borders the Great Lakes region. This region, which includes Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, functions as an integrated automotive production network. Ontario's auto sector is deeply integrated with U.S. production in these states. Canadian firms have invested $1.7 billion in the U.S. between 2012 and 2018, creating and sustaining thousands of U.S. jobs across many states. For example, Magna International, headquartered in Ontario, employs 27,125 people in the U.S., and since 2011, they've created more than 8,400 jobs across 11 states. Martin Ray employs 5,000 people in Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee. That's twice as many as they employ in Canada. The integration of our auto sector is of enormous benefit to both our country's businesses, workers, and economics. The integration is evident across our supply chains. Autos provide a clear example of how connected our economies are. The parts, as you've heard, on average, an average vehicle cross the NAFTA borders approximately 7 times before being installed on the production line. American auto manufacturers have spent decades and invested billions of dollars to fine-tune these processes so that our supply chain reduces costs to businesses, increases productivity, and keeps vehicles affordable for Canadians and Americans alike. Any outcome from this current 232 investigation that would result in tariffs, quotas, or other barriers to trade in the automotive sector would lead to significant negative economic impacts and job losses, not just in Canada, but on both sides of our border. It would make vehicles more expensive for American consumers, leading to decreased sales, hurting businesses, workers, and the American economy as a whole. This would seriously erode what North American auto industry leaders have built over several decades. For example, it could hurt sales in states like Alabama, that exports $604 million in engines and $65 million in brake parts to Ontario each year. Experts have calculated that a 25% tariff on auto imports coming into the U.S., including auto parts, would shrink U.S. production by 1.5%. This could result, as you've heard, in 195,000 job losses in the U.S. within the first 3 years. If other countries respond to the U.S. actions by imposing their own tariffs, this would only make the impact greater. U.S. production could fall by 4%, and 624,000 jobs could be lost in the U.S. And these consequences will be felt in Canada as well. Workers are the backbone of our integrated auto sector. Together, workers and industry leaders have built something great that has been and can continue to be an engine that drives our economies forward. If auto tariffs are imposed, everybody loses. The Canadian automotive industry has supported U.S. national security interests for decades by ensuring reliable auto parts and supplies. Ontario, in particular, has been integral in supporting these interests during times of peace and conflict. For instance, during World War II, the General Motors auto plant in Oshawa, Ontario, and the Ford auto plant in Windsor, Ontario, built over 800,000 military transport trucks for allies, including the United States, vehicles that were essential to Allied operations during the conflict. These contributions from Ontario help bolster U.S. national security, safety, and the freedom of U.S. citizens. Any barriers to automotive imports from Ontario and Canada would hinder us from helping in the same way in the future. As such, it's essential for businesses, workers, and families in both our countries that Canada receive a full and permanent exemption from any measures being considered in this investigation. Ontario's automotive industry and its workers, along with their counterparts in the United States, are relying on you to keep them front of mind in your decisions on this matter. We are stronger and more prosperous together. Our trade relationship has enabled both Canada and the United States to see great economic gains. I'm confident that we can continue to work together now and in the future for the benefit of all our citizens. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.